For 6 years, I flew through Kuala Lumpur International Airport on my way to somewhere else. Tokyo, Bali, Bangkok, Singapore. Malaysia was the pause between the real destinations. I am embarrassed to say that out loud now. I know what you are thinking because I thought it too. Malaysia is fine. It is perfectly pleasant. It is not as exotic as Vietnam or as famous as Thailand or as polished as Singapore. It is just sort of there, in the middle of Southeast Asia, doing its thing while everyone else gets the headlines. I have now spent significant time in 12 Asian countries, including extended stays in Japan, South Korea, Singapore, and Thailand. I have the comparison baseline. And I need to tell you directly, the world has Malaysia completely, embarrassingly wrong. Here are the 5 reasons. Number 5. The infrastructure no one talks about. When most people picture Malaysia, they picture jungle, street food, and maybe the Petronas Towers if they have seen an action film from 2000. What they do not picture is a public transport network that puts several European capitals to shame. I met James in Kuala Lumpur. He is a British infrastructure engineer who has worked across Asia for 11 years. He came to Malaysia expecting what he called the developing world experience: unreliable internet, chaotic roads, airports held together with hope. What he found was fiber broadband faster than his flat in Manchester and an international airport that Skytrax ranked among the top 10 globally in 2023. He now uses KL as his permanent base for Southeast Asia contracts. Here is the honest comparison. Tokyo has world-class rail infrastructure, but navigating it as a non-Japanese speaker is genuinely exhausting, and the cost of living makes it unsustainable for most long-term stays. Singapore's MRT is seamless, but it only covers a city-state roughly the size of a large suburb. Malaysia has built a country-wide infrastructure backbone: highways, airports, rail corridors, and made it accessible to everyone. Malaysia's 5G rollout currently covers more ground than the majority of EU member states. That sentence should sit with you for a moment. But infrastructure is just hardware. What Malaysia has built culturally and what almost no one outside the country actually talks about is something no other Asian nation has ever quite pulled off in the same way. That is coming up next. Number 4. The multicultural reality. Every country on Earth claims to be multicultural. It is almost always a polite word for, we have a dominant majority and a few visible minorities. Malaysia is genuinely different, and the proof is not in a government brochure. It is on a plate of food at 6 in the morning. Picture this. A Chinese-run mamak stall opening before sunrise. The smell of roti canai hitting a hot tawa, the hiss of steam, the sound of Bollywood playing from a portable speaker in the kitchen. The man cooking is Malay. His business partner is Tamil. The regulars, and there are always regulars, are a mix of all 3 communities, sitting at the same plastic table, reading different newspapers, arguing about football. This is not a cultural festival. This is not a government tourism campaign. This is Tuesday. I spoke to Priya, an architect who was born in Penang to Tamil Indian parents. Her grandmother came from Tamil Nadu. Her business partner is Hakka Chinese. Her main contractor is Malay. They eat together every Friday without ceremony or self-congratulation. She looked at me slightly puzzled when I asked about it. This is just how it works here, she said. Ethnologue, the authoritative global language database, identifies over 130 languages spoken within Malaysia's borders, making it one of the most linguistically diverse nations in all of Asia. That is not just interesting trivia. That is a lived daily reality that no other country in the region has managed at scale. But here is what genuinely surprised me. While the world was focused on Malaysia's culture, its economy was doing something quietly spectacular, and the financial press was almost completely ignoring it. Number 3. The economy the IMF is watching. What if I told you that Malaysia is on a documented trajectory to join the ranks of developed nations by 2030 and that almost no mainstream international media is treating it as the story it actually is? World Bank data consistently places Malaysia in the upper middle income bracket, with GDP growth that outperformed most of Western Europe through the 2020s. This is not emerging market speculation. This is a country that has been industrializing steadily for 3 decades and is now building a high-technology services and manufacturing economy on top of that base. The honest comparison: Thailand is affordable but has struggled with economic consistency across governments. Indonesia is vast but deeply uneven in its development across regions. Vietnam is growing fast but from a significantly lower starting point. Malaysia has been compounding quietly, building institutions and infrastructure while the rest of the region grabbed the headlines. I met Amir in KL. Software entrepreneur. He had a job offer in Singapore, turned it down, and built his startup in Kuala Lumpur instead. His reason was simple. In KL, he could hire talented Malay, Chinese, and Indian engineers, fluent in multiple languages, internationally educated, technically world-class, at a fraction of the salary cost Singapore demands. His company now exports software products to 11 countries. He has no plans to move. If you are someone who believes the world deserves accurate information about countries it has written off too quickly, subscribe to Hidden Realms right now. We cover the places the mainstream travel algorithm forgets exist. And the next reason we are about to get into is exactly why that matters. Because what I discovered about how Malaysia is covered or rather, not covered by Western media made me genuinely angry. Number 2. The lie the travel media keeps telling. I want to say this directly. The standard Western travel media narrative about Malaysia is some variation of the following. It is fine, it has religious tensions, it has governance issues, there is some corruption, go to Singapore instead. And this narrative is lazy. It is reductive. And someone benefits from it staying alive. Think about the economics of travel content for a moment. Bangkok, Bali, and Singapore have entire content ecosystems built around them. Millions of videos, thousands of blogs, major platform partnerships. There is zero algorithmic incentive for a travel creator to redirect their audience to Kuala Lumpur. The familiar destinations feed the machine. Malaysia's complexity, the fact that it requires more than 10 seconds to explain, makes it a bad fit for the format. Here's what that lazy narrative erases. According to UN tourism data, Malaysia was the 12th most visited country on Earth in 2023. 12th. Ahead of Australia. Ahead of Portugal. Ahead of Japan. Malaysia operates one of the most open trade economies in the entire ASEAN bloc. Its record of managing religious and ethnic coexistence across 3 major civilizational traditions on a daily basis outperforms several European Union nations that have been struggling with integration for decades. The reality the narrative refuses to acknowledge is this: Malaysia has done something almost no country in modern history has pulled off. It modernized rapidly, at scale, without erasing its cultural texture. It has the skyline and the soul. It built the towers and kept the street food. And while the world was busy looking elsewhere, Malaysians just kept building. That, to me, is the most underrated flex in all of Asia. But none of that, not the infrastructure, not the culture, not the economy, not the geopolitical reality, none of it prepared me for what I found when I left Kuala Lumpur and went into the country itself. Because Malaysia is hiding something from the world that the world has not even begun to deserve. Number 1. The natural world that should have changed everything. Malaysia contains some of the oldest rainforest on the surface of this planet. Not old like the Amazon. 4 times older than the Amazon. Taman Negara, the national park on the Malay Peninsula, is approximately 130 million years old. The trees you are walking under existed before the dinosaurs were extinct. I stood on a canopy walkway in Borneo at dawn. Hornbills were calling somewhere above me in the canopy. The air was thick and cool and smelled like wet bark and something floral I could not identify. Below me, a river ran clear over smooth stones. This was not a manicured wildlife experience. This was a rainforest that has been doing its own thing since before most of the continents were in their current positions. I spoke to Dr. Lena Fischer, a German wildlife biologist with 20 years of fieldwork across 4 continents. She came to Malaysian Borneo expecting degraded secondary forest, the kind she had seen replaced elsewhere by palm plantations. She found intact old growth in Danam Valley that she described as more biodiverse than anywhere she had worked in 2 decades. She changed her research program. She is now based in Sabah. "This is what we stand to lose if nobody talks about it," she told me. Costa Rica built an entire global identity around its biodiversity and now draws millions of nature tourists per year. New Zealand built its entire tourism economy on landscapes. Malaysia has orangutans, pygmy elephants, clouded leopards, the world's largest flower, and some of the most ancient forest ecosystems on Earth, and it barely registers on the international nature documentary circuit. WWF identifies Malaysian Borneo as one of the 3 most biodiverse places on the planet, alongside the Amazon Basin and the Congo Basin. 3 places. Malaysia is one of them. Does that feel like something the world is treating seriously? Here's my honest verdict after everything I have just told you. I spent 6 years treating Malaysia as a layover. 6 years of walking through KLIA on the way to somewhere that seemed more important. I was not a little wrong. I was completely wrong. Malaysia is not the stopover between real destinations. Malaysia is the destination that the rest of the world has not caught up to yet. Subscribe to Hidden Realms. We cover the countries the algorithm forgets. Now I want to hear from you. Is Malaysia the most underrated country in all of Asia, or do you think Japan and Singapore still have the edge despite everything I just showed you? Drop your answer in the comments below. I read every single one.